Good afternoon, and welcome to the November Community IT Innovators webinar series. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about getting ready for Microsoft's Office 2016. My name is Johan Hammerstrom, and I'm the President and CEO of Community IT. As always, we encourage you to interact with us by asking questions via the GoToWebinar chat feature. You can connect with us on Twitter, and we can be followed by our Twitter handle @CommunityIT. Just a reminder to avoid multitasking during the webinar. You may just miss the best part. If you do miss the best part of the presentation or you need to leave the webinar early, we will be posting links to the recording and slides on our website. Those will be available on our website as well as on our YouTube channel and our SlideShare channel. In case you're not familiar with Community IT, our skilled and certified team of IT professionals serves the greater Washington nonprofit community, helping organizations of all sizes and capacities to advance their missions through the effective use of technology. We're deeply invested in the nonprofit community. We've served over 900 nonprofit organizations since 1993, and we take a strategic and collaborative approach that fits the unique needs and culture of nonprofit organizations. And now, it's my pleasure to turn today's webinar over to our presenters, Matthew Eshelman and Mark Kramer, to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit more about Office 2016. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Great. Thanks for the introduction, Johan. My name is Matthew Eshelman. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Community IT. My email address and Twitter handle are here, and I'm really excited to be joined by my colleague, Mark Kramer.
Hi, thanks, Matt. My name is Mark Kramer, Network Administrator at Community IT. I handle everything from the printers on up, and I'm looking forward to helping you folks learn a little bit about Office 2016 today.
Great. So a little bit of an overview in terms of what we'll talk about today. We will be doing a fair amount of live demonstration of Office 2016 because we want to give folks a chance to see and have a chance to interact with the platform a little bit. So we'll do a bit of an introduction of the system here, overview of the agenda, highlight a couple of the features as part of the slide deck, but then we will be spending most of the time doing demos as we go through the different components of Office 2016, and then we will have some dedicated time for questions at the end, although we encourage you to chat in questions, and we'll try to actually answer them as we go along, particularly if they're a relevant question to the application that we're working on. And we did get some questions on the beginning of this as you registered, and so I think we'll be able to address most of those questions as we go along. So with that, I would like to just get a quick, I guess, pulse of our attendees today to get a sense of what version of Office you are currently using. So we have a quick poll that we should be able to launch here. If you could just click in your answer, we'll get a sense of which version of Office you are currently using. So thanks for everybody for chatting those in. If we can, get some feedback there, it's helpful for us, as we're looking at deploying this across our client base to get a sense of where folks attending this webinar are at. So thanks a lot for that feedback. So it looks like about 4% of you have gone ahead and moved up to Office 2016, so maybe you can share some of your lessons learned. And then the bulk of the staff, or the folks on the webinar, about 46% are in Office 2013, 43% in Office 2010, and about 7% are still back in Office 2007. So looks like most folks are a version or so behind, and so hopefully this will give you some good information to help you plan for this upgrade. All right. So I want to just kind of highlight kind of this is Microsoft's view of Office 2016 and kind of the new Office 2016 apps. I think the big theme for them, and you'll see this as we go throughout the presentation and the demos today, is that there's really a focus on kind of their approach to building for teamwork. There's features such as co-authoring. That's a feature that I think many of us are familiar with from Google Apps, and so Microsoft has incorporated it into Office, and I think that's it's been a great addition. There's also Skype, and Skype Meetings is now part of the Office package and is something we'll actually take a look at. OneNote, which is a tool for note-taking and just kind of organizing your personal information, and then this idea of kind of Office Anywhere. There's now Office versions available for your tablet, for your phone, kind of any format that you choose to consume information. It's going to be available there. Again, Office 2016 kind of works best with Windows 10, so Microsoft is kind of providing some incentives to get that working on their most current platform, and then they've built in a lot of really, I think, neat features and I think helpful features that we'll get into, particularly around in Word and Outlook, just I think to help folks work more effectively in terms of how they do their work. So, I don't know, Mark, if you could talk a little bit about the kind of some of the transitions from Office 2007 on.
Thanks, Matt. What we're going to notice is a lot of it is sort of the same but different, I think, is the big theme. Folks moving from 2007 and 2010 will have perhaps a little bit more work to do adjusting. Folks moving from 2013 to 2016 may sort of scratch their head in the first 5 minutes and go, well, that's not that different. But I think you're going to see a lot of interesting new features that come along, both visually and again, speaking to this idea of working more collaboratively. Microsoft's really been hammering this home and trying to sort of steal the thunder from other companies and really improve their productivity software, particularly in the business sector, who's sort of their bread and butter for the software. I think that's a good spot. One thing I want you folks to think about as we go forward is what are the 2 or 3 kinds of things that you're going to have to do the first time you sit down and play with this program, and everyone sort of has a different role. If you're a Power Excel user and a spreadsheet guru, or you're using crazy features in Microsoft Word that no one else knows, think about that, and as we sort of move along, see if you have any questions that pop up for that. I think that'll help frame the discussion for you. So when you actually get down, to get your hands dirty with the software for the first time, that'll be helpful to you to sort of have that primed already.
Mm-hmm. Great. I think that's some really good kind of guidances. You're in this webinar. What are you going to learn? What are your takeaways going to be? So for most folks, the way that you will get Office 2016 is through your Office 365 subscription. So most people, and especially in the nonprofit sector, are either getting E1 for free, which actually does not include the desktop Office software, or they're going to get it through Office, the E3 subscription, which does include the Office Pro Plus version. So interestingly enough, if you are getting software from the Office 365 portal, you're downloading the application, that's what Microsoft calls click to run. And Microsoft is actually delivering updates to that program outside of the normal Windows Update channel. So if, for example, right now you are an Office 365 customer with E3 and you have Office 2013 on your computer, Microsoft will update 2013 to Office 2016 sometime in the first quarter. So this will be an update that most people will get automatically if you're kind of in that cloud-based subscription model. So for those of you that have maybe the more traditional volume license, or you have some other kind of software desktop kind of box software, it'll be a manual upgrade process. But for those of you that are in the click to run world of Microsoft, this is going to come as kind of an automatic update almost. So as I mentioned before, Microsoft is really focusing, I think, on this kind of collaboration and teamwork and playing that up. So again, co-authoring and real-time typing, so we'll go ahead and show that off along with some of the benefits that come with that Skype in-app integration. So actually, we'll go ahead and I will show that off right now. So for example, we use Skype for business a fair amount here at Community IT. And so right now I can see that Mark is in a meeting. I'll say, hey, Mark. And because we're in a meeting, I might want to share some notes with Mark. And one of the things that I use OneNote quite a bit for is taking notes like this. So let's go ahead and I'm going to add shared notes. Let's use my demo notebook. Go ahead and click OK. And what that's going to do is go ahead and bring me into OneNote, and it's automatically going to populate that I'm in a meeting. This is me, and there's Mark, and he's in this meeting, and we can have the meeting date, and we can keep notes about our meeting. So, meeting about Office 2016. So this is, I think, an example of how Microsoft is really, using some of the integration and kind of knitting together the pieces of their application suite to provide, a pretty helpful tool to, for folks to work and I think collaborate effectively around. The other thing, as I mentioned, is Office across devices. So again, you will have access to Office's the Office application if you're on your Windows PC, if you're on your Mac computer, if you're on your iPad, your Android tablet, or your Android phone. And so Microsoft is making that available. And I think it works fairly well regardless of the device that you're working from. So I have a Windows PC, I have an Android phone, and it is something that I use fairly heavily, viewing documents and even doing some edits across the full suite of application or devices that I have. And so you can see, Microsoft, I think, has recognized that we're not all going to be pure Windows users, and so those applications are available regardless of the operating system that you happen to be running. So I do want to give Microsoft, I think, credit for making this available regardless of the platform. And then finally, before we get into some of the live demos, I did want to highlight some of the features that are in Skype for Business. So I think this was originally called Link, and Link was their tool for kind of business chat that's now been renamed Skype for Business. And in Skype for Business, you have the ability to do the chat feature, as we showed here. But then there's also the option to do a video call, to do a voice call, and even to do shared desktops and presentations. So it really is a very powerful platform that I think is going to make a lot of sense for organizations to use more fully. The other thing that's interesting about Skype for business is Microsoft's integration of phone service. So you can see here my people, here's my schedule for today, and I also have this phone icon, which means that I will be able to actually make desktop phone calls right from the Skype for Business application. So this will be an add-in service to Office 2016, but it looks like that's going to be something Microsoft will be including as we go down the road. So with I think the slides out of the way, I do want to go ahead and get a chance to take a look at the actual applications itself. So Mark, what should we start with? Outlook?
Yeah, let's start with Outlook. As I was talking to you offline, probably 90% of users, when they first sit down at their computer with the new software for the first time, the first thing you do is you open up your email. And I think in terms visually, most folks are going to notice the most dramatic changes in Outlook. And I think some of that's simply a function of this is what you do every single day. One of the big complaints I got about Office 2013 was the visual style was very hard to read. You sort of had the menus with low contrast. It was sort of black text on a white background. And even for my young eyes, it could be kind of difficult when I was staring at it for multiple hours a day. So you notice immediately that pops out, we're back to color contrast on the menu bar, which has made my life a lot easier. The tab you're in is highlighted more clearly. The default is, I believe they call it the colorful style, that has the color bar with the white text, much easier to read. We're back to the color coding across programs except for Outlook. It's still blue and not gold, as old users of Outlook will remember that Microsoft had very particular color associations. couple new parts of the platform that you're going to like is number one, the Tell Me What to Do button, which is up there on your taskbar. And so the first time you sit down to this program and you don't know where one of the buttons is, you can type in a description, and this is using basically smart learning technology, so it's pulling from the internet to sort of figure out what people have been asking for. So if you type in automatic reply, there you go. But you could also type out of office in that same box, and it will sort of automatically pull up automatic replies there. And that gets you to the same spot. You can click on it like any context-sensitive menu. And now, if you don't know where the button has moved to, it's a good chance that you're going to find it that way. I haven't tested it extensively. I can't promise that it's going to be foolproof. But I think the more users use the program, and Microsoft is sort of building their database, it's going to get better and better. And it's definitely much more intuitive in terms of finding menus, which is really sort of becoming the Google phenomenon in terms of using your search engine in that same way. You've seen it built across new versions of Windows where you do more searching than menu hunting, depending on the generation and how you learn to use a computer. You'll notice there automatic replies really haven't changed a whole heck of a lot. Now, another interesting option is going to be the Smart Lookup. And Matt, if you could just open up any email and then highlight one of the words for me.
Okay.
So highlight a word and right-click on it, Smart Lookup. And what this basically does is integrate a search engine tool into Microsoft Office. You're going to see this across any program that you use Microsoft Office in. And so usually for something like this, it would pull up Wikipedia, it would pull up a couple different search engines depending on how your computer's configured, Bing image search. I haven't played around too much with the configuration, but I think as the program progresses, there's going to be more and more options in this section. And particularly, maybe not as useful in email, but particularly in Office, when you're typing and maybe there's a word or there's a concept you're working with, it's a good place to sort of search. Whether this will replace your sort of traditional browser, I'm not actually sure, but it's certainly worth looking at as one of the more interesting features that's come across. Another sort of common point that we have, and this is really across the different programs, is how to deal with the floating menu bars. Some folks, this ribbon up at the top don't like them very much, and it can get in the way if you're on a tiny laptop screen. And so you notice way up at the top, you have your traditional X for close, your sort of resize button, your minimize button, and there's this other little button that's similar with an arrow. And what happens if you right-click on that, you're going to get a couple of options. And so you have the auto hide the ribbon, which basically means it completely disappears. You have show tabs, which is where it shrinks down the ribbon so that when you highlight one of the tabs, then it pops up. And then you have show tabs and commands, which is what we're at now. So Matt, go ahead and click show tabs for me, please. And now, if you go back to one of the tabs, it will automatically pull down what you're working on, just like it used to. And it gets you a couple inches of screen real estate, which, say you were on a tablet, that might perhaps be more useful than if you're working on a massive screen on a desktop computer. And as always, I want to remind folks that in Microsoft Office, right-click is king. The context menus continue to be very important. If you right-click on just about anything, you're going to find specific contexts, various tools that will apply to what you're doing. And also remember that you can continue to hover over menu items if you don't know what they do. And it's something, even after as long as I've been in here, I still use it repeatedly, particularly if you go up to the taskbar, the ribbon, and hover over one of those commands, you'll see a little text pop up. And it'll tell you what it does, and sometimes it'll offer a keyboard shortcut. So most of that hasn't changed, but it's important to remember as you're going forward. Okay, some things a little bit more specific to Microsoft Outlook. Sending emails hasn't changed. You still send replies, forward attachments the same way. Opening email hasn't changed. One of the things we do get, though, is this conversation view that some people adore and some people maybe aren't so fond of. And so what happens right now is we have emails in the context of conversations. That's sort of the default of the program. And basically what that's doing is it's pulling your sent and received items together so that you can read each email in relation to what came before it. It's entirely easy to turn that off, and that's under View. And there's a little checkbox right there where you can disable that if that's not your cup of tea. And as usual, we have multiple viewpoints. You can move the reading pane to the bottom. If you want more of the little descriptors in the subject line to sort of extend that, it's in the same space. So there's all kinds of different settings, and it'll take you a little while to figure out where they are. I don't think a lot of them have changed, but it's good to know about. Another particularly infuriating piece of Outlook for many people is the little tiny arrows that collapse menus. And as a network administrator, I've seen this so many times where somebody clicks the wrong button and they've hidden a menu, and all of a sudden you don't know where your email went. So you see that little tiny arrow right there? Yep, Matt found it. Go ahead and click that, Matt. Yeah. And now, some of us, no big deal, but I can see why it gets very confusing. And there's these little arrows all over the place. There's another one in the body of the email, just under Matt's name, on the right-hand side right there, that will sort of condense or give you more information. And just sort of keep an eye out for that. And that's pretty consistent across the platform, but I think you're really going to notice it the most in Outlook. And that's where, generally speaking, I see the most complaints about that specific feature. Microsoft.
Hey, Mark. I'm sorry to interrupt you. A couple questions that I think are topical and I wanted to ask before the Q&A at the end. So
sure.
One person asked about Clutter, what Clutter is, and another person wondered if there was a way to change the default globally from conversation view to the other view so that they don't have to go into every folder and make that change.
Ooh, good questions. Let's do the conversation view first. Now, I believe, Matt, do you remember if it's a global setting?
So whenever you do the change and you uncheck the box, you do have the choice to just do this folder. So right now this is my inbox, or you could do all mailboxes, which I believe will do all of the subfolders as well. So you do have that choice. And as with most Microsoft things, if you're in an enterprise network or you're domain-based, this should be an option that can be controlled via group policy as well.
Great. Now, Clutter, you're actually beating me to the punch on this one. This is a good item to talk about. So Clutter is sort of Microsoft's way to sort of help you, organize your email a little bit more tightly. And what it does, it tries to learn from you and finds email that maybe aren't quite as important. Maybe you have listservs, or you're getting a lot of legitimate advertising email, things like that, and it will sort of automatically move them into your Clutter folder, and you can train it. And as you use the program more and more, it will start to learn from you and then figure out, oh, well, this email from this sender always goes to Clutter, or email from this domain always goes to this to Clutter. Or if you're getting tons of auto responses for various reasons, just depending on the work that you do, you might see that. Mm-hmm. Matt, anything to add on Clutter?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, again, I think a step from Microsoft's kind of machine learning or smart learning, where they're, I think, trying to be a little bit more helpful in terms of managing, managing your inbox. I think Google, did that with the priority inbox. Microsoft's, I think, trying to provide some additional intelligence around that as well. So.
Great.
Yeah. The other thing maybe I'd highlight in terms of the menu and the navigation bar is at the very top, you might see this little finger, and so that actually toggles between touch or mouse mode. So again, with Microsoft trying to make this, this application experience work across devices, they have this option where you can toggle between touch or mouse mode. So if you put it into touch mode, which is actually what I have because I have a laptop with a touch screen, it spaces out the menu items. You can actually switch that back to mouse mode, which will, as you can see, maybe kind of tightened up the menu bar a little bit. So, this is obviously, you have a lot more precision with a mouse. I tend to keep this in touch mode because for whatever reason I like to, poke my laptop screen to get to these different views. So that is a new feature, newer feature that's in the Office suites, and I think has a practical application.
Great. Um, Calendars, of course, are ever popular. Matt, would you hover over? One of my favorites from, I believe this was actually new in 2013, is hovering over any of these items will sort of give you a couple of different views. And for Calendar, it's very useful to be able to take a quick glance and see what your next or your next couple of meetings are. It's a simple little feature, but people enjoy it. If you go ahead and go into Calendars for me, Matt. Layout's pretty similar. You have the various custom view options that you've always had. Your shared calendars are pretty much in the same spot that they've been. Creating new appointments and new meetings is pretty similar, although you'll notice the addition of a Skype button. And this allows you to build in the Skype meeting into your appointment. Including it sends out a link. I've actually used this a couple times where I wasn't on a computer that had direct Skype access, and I was still able to participate. Actually, I think it was Matt when he sent me a meeting request one time. And it makes it very easy to participate in these meetings. Great. Go ahead.
And I think the nice thing is that now you'll see that immediately in my Skype for Business console, I now see that, hey, at 5 o'clock, I have a follow-up meeting with with Mark, and I can go ahead and just join that meeting right from the Skype for Business application. So, nice integration between Outlook as the email with Skype for Business as kind of that real-time communication system.
Great. Other items are the scheduling assistant, which has been around for a couple of versions. Again, not too much change in terms of the scheduling assistant. If you want to go ahead and go to a new meeting, we can show you that real quick. And now, Matt needs to figure out when I'm available. And so here's the scheduling assistant. And where this really comes in handy is if you're juggling, a meeting with 4 or 5 people, please keep in mind that only folks that are in your email system, so in our case, only folks with Community IT will show up in this list. It doesn't really work for outside users. You can also bring in resources. So if you're trying to figure out if your conference room is available, depending on how your administrators have set it up, you'll see, in this case, here's our conference room, and we can match up everything for this resource. Matt, anything else to add on calendars?
No, well, yeah, you're getting a view of mine, so you can see I live and die by the calendar.
Last thing to cover in Outlook is people. They've renamed Contact. Again, I think that was from 2013. They renamed Contacts to People. I think it sounds friendlier. Some out of marketing. But again, I think the basic navigation hasn't changed all that much. But you'll notice here's a Skype for Business contacts that's more integrated and automatic list, which for Community IT, we use this extensively. I talk to my colleagues all the time. And again, I can work right from in there, and it gives me all the different options I have to contact with them. I can jump into scheduling a meeting. I can send them an email. It'll show me their availability. So you see some of our help desk folks are available. I should probably be blacked out with the red bar because I'm actually in this meeting. And that can be really useful for quick contacts. New contact groups are still fairly easy to use. And this is basically similar to distribution lists, but it seems to be a bit friendlier for creating these meetings and these groups. And I think the only other thing we should probably mention is the integrated search tools. And this is pretty much across whichever, whether you're in people or contacts or notes. Microsoft search tools have gotten gradually more robust. In earlier versions, people weren't as happy with them and sought outside programs. But generally speaking, the last few versions, they continue to improve greatly. And so you can do a search by just about anything. There's lots of advanced search options. And generally, it's gotten quite a bit better in my experience, particularly the ability to search all mailboxes. So if you have multiple accounts that you're working from, you can search them all at once. And really, there's even more advanced features if you really want to dive deep and you're looking for something specific and you have gigs and gigs of emails. Um, and I believe that is about it for Microsoft Outlook.
Great. Great. Well, thanks for providing the overview for Outlook. And I think probably the next thing that we can talk about is in Microsoft Word. So again, a lot of the similar themes that Mark talked about in terms of the UI changes with the ribbon are all carried through. So this will be a consistent experience regardless of the application that you're working in. But one of the things that I think is really powerful and was highlighted as well is this document sharing feature. So I'm going to go ahead and save this document. It's a test document. I'm going to save it to my personal OneDrive that's shared with everyone. And from here, what I can do is actually invite Mark to collaborate with me on this document in real time right from within the browser. So let's see. Great. So we'll go ahead. We can control permissions. So by default, it's can edit, but I could also just say can view if I just wanted him to have view access. Let's work on this together. And here you can say automatically share changes always. So right now you can see that I'm in this document, that's me, and I'm editing away. Mark has now also been added to this share portal or share panel, so I can see that Mark has been given access to this document, which could be helpful down if if somebody else picks up this document, wants to see who else has access to it, that information is all included right here. So whenever Mark gets access to it, what we'll see is some information about him and where he's at in the document and making comments. So we'll just start making some edits in terms of this document. So right now, let's see, video provides a powerful way. We can do all kinds of things, our normal document editing. Great. So now that you can see in the upper right-hand part of the screen that now there's two heads, and now down here we see Mark Kramer is editing this document in real time. And if you notice in the second paragraph, now there's a red cursor, and when I hover over that, I can tell that that's Mark. I can tell that Mark is working on that paragraph. So one of the questions I think that often comes up is, hey, this document co-editing is great. How do I know, we're not making edits at the same, in the same paragraph at the same time? And so these visual cues can really help to, ensure that you've got a sense of if you are doing simultaneous document editing, you will actually get some visual cues in terms of who's working on what at the same time. So. And if Mark makes a change, that information will be reflected back in the document that I'm working on. Again, one of the other cues, and this is not necessarily just Office 2016, but this has to do more with the fact that I'm saving this to OneDrive. This would also be the case if you were saving it to SharePoint. But now the save function, instead of just being the little disk, is now a kind of a chasing arrows, and so you can see that that document is being synchronized to the cloud. So gives you a little bit of information. When I save it, it'll update it, and then it's going to highlight those changes in green. So there's a couple of other visual cues, and now I can see that Mark has made that update, and now that section is in bold. So again, I think a really powerful tool that I know we certainly use quite a bit here at Community IT.
Matt, can you only share and edit with people within your company? Can you share it outside of people within your company?
Yes, you can share and actually do document editing with people outside of your organization. And so that's, again, a feature. And that is more of a feature of kind of Office 2016 plus some of the collaboration tools such as OneDrive or SharePoint, where you have that ability to kind of have a common source of truth in terms of where a document resides. So, this, just because you have Office 2016 and you're working on a local file server, that won't give you the ability to do simultaneous editing. The simultaneous editing is kind of a function of the fact that you have Office 2016 and OneDrive, and or SharePoint.
Are there any, does this relate to any changes in tracked changes? Any changes on how that works in Word? Is there sort of new integration with this collaborative editing?
That is a good question. I mean, in terms of track changes, if we turn on track changes in this, it would still, so right now there's no indication that that Mark made that edit. If we turn on track changes, you'd still have the same feature set in terms of which person made made the change in a document.
So you basically, if you're going to collaborate and you want to keep track of the changes, you should turn track changes on first and then invite the person. I know that OneDrive and SharePoint Online both do a great job with versioning, and I've used that quite a few times actually to go back and look at earlier versions of a document, and have found that really easy to use.
Yeah, and actually that's another thing I think that's worth highlighting. So let's just add some more text and save it. So Mark, if we wanted to look at the document history, where would one go to find that?
All right, go to the File tab, please. And now I believe it's under Manage Documents.
I think that's going to give us the unsaved documents and do the, I think, the checkout. So,
oh, I'm sorry. There's a history tab there on the left.
Yeah.
So even we go hunting for menus sometimes.
Yep. So right now, let's see. This is a current version. Let me go ahead and bring up. This is a just kind of an overview document that we were working on yesterday in terms of our training overview. Has a bit more history. But again, you'll see the history tab, and we can go through and roll back. So the current version was saved today at 2:48 by me. You can see Mark worked on that a little bit earlier in the day, and then we had some back and forth, even before that. So again, I think this is a really powerful tool. So that you can do some versioning, so we get away from, I think in the past there would be, Office 2016 training outline vmat, then there might be an outline, vmark, then there might be a vmat, vmark final, vmat final, and just kind of going through that whole circus. And so I think some of the history and versioning, again, very helpful to have as part of the overall platform.
And that is something to keep in mind too, that a lot of these new tools are especially geared towards sharing the documents online, particularly with OneDrive and SharePoint in the business setting. That is sort of where Microsoft is pushing us towards. And so to get the most out of these features, you will want to be connecting online. Having the document in a central location makes a world of difference. Matt, do you know if that same versioning works okay on the traditional file server model?
It's a really good question, and I think something I need to check out in terms of how versioning and document history would work if we're just saving things on a traditional on-premise file server.
Great.
It is interesting. Yeah, so much of the work now is very kind of very cloud centric. It's kind of thinking back to that other paradigm. I need to see how it's handling that.
Excellent. All right, probably we have enough time to go into a couple more features of Word. Matt, would you go ahead and go back to the File tab for me, please, on one of your documents? You're going to find that this looks very familiar, but it gives us a little bit more information. You see, too, on the Manage Document now, you have a bit more in this particular document because we've done more with it. So that's sort of a mini version of the History tab. As to what's happened with that. And can you open a new document, please?
Just want to go ahead and get a blank document?
Yep. And actually, I'm trying to get to the splash screen that we get when we first open the program, because that's one of the things that people notice most immediately.
Okay. Let's see. You know what? I might not be able to do that because I'm on. I have dual screens here, so let's.
Okay.
let's see, there.
Actually, no, this is perfect. So what happens? A lot of folks will fire up the program for the first time, and they see this screen, and it's great. And it gives them all these options for the traditional templates, like many of us are used to in recent documents. But some folks, when they open Word or any other Office program, they just want to go straight to a clean document. But fortunately, it's a really easy setting to turn off. It's one of the first things I train folks on with this program, because I think it's one of the little things that people have the strongest opinion on. And so, Matt, if you could just open any document, we're going to go into options, please. And the traditional File tab, and then Options down at the bottom, and all the way down at the bottom, it should be under General. Show the start screen when the application starts. There's the checkbox. And from here on out, after that checkbox has been unchecked, Matt will open up a Word just from the desktop, and he just opens a plain document. This works in any program, but you have to do it manually each time. It's not a global setting. Now, the other big thing I want to show folks is native PDF editing. And this is something people have been clamoring for years. So you have a PDF document that someone sends you, and you don't have a PDF editor. You don't have Adobe Acrobat. And so, Matt, if you have a PDF document that we can open, so I can show folks how the conversion works.
Sure, let's see, open with.
And so what happened is you would right-click any document and go to Open With, and Word gives you a warning, say, hey, this could take a minute. And you go ahead and go to OK. Now, what you can do with this document will greatly depend on how it was created. But if it is something where you could copy the text anyways, you can basically do all your normal edits. It's not flawless. I would argue personally that it doesn't take away the benefit of more robust PDF editing platforms. But for the basic stuff, this works great. My users have been very happy with it. It's, again, one of those little features that I think people have been waiting for a long time, and Microsoft finally delivered.
Yeah, this is really, really handy, because I think, most of us, the reaction is, we need a full-blown Adobe Acrobat, and so to be able to do, kind of the basic PDF editing in here is a really big, I think, a really big win for folks.
And then if you wanted to save the files, you could either save it as a Word document or go back to export. These functions really haven't changed too dramatically. And you have both the option to save as and export. I found using the export feature is a bit more efficient. I know the encoding is a little bit different, but the documents seem to come out a little bit better and more of a normal size. And it gives you the option. So much better handling for PDF documents in Microsoft Office 2016.
Fantastic. Great. I know let's see, we've got about 20 minutes left. Is there anything more to highlight with Word?
No, I think those are the big ones.
Great. All right. Well, let's see. I guess we can change gears a little bit and switch over to Excel. So again, not many. I think visually, it's very consistent with the other applications. We have the same features. This is me. I'm signed in. I have the same options to share and do that real-time collaboration. Again, this tell me what you want to do is available here as well. And I do want to show kind of one of the neat features that I think is available that they've incorporated into Office 2016 is around, I think, some more powerful data analytics. So if you're somebody that does a lot of number crunching or even visualization, I think that there's some really neat features that are included as part of Office 2016. So right here, what I have is actually just a sample data set that Microsoft provides that actually shows the list of power stations across the United States. So one of the things that's really neat is a 3D mapping. So you can see that as soon as I click in there, it highlights the fact that I have recently used this function. So I'll go ahead and type in or select 3D map. And so what that's going to do is launch the 3D Maps add-in, and this is a data visualization tool that allows you to, I think, relatively easily have a way to represent information visually. So again, this is some of this is pre-populated, but we know that we've got this is our data, this is our map, and then what I can do is add fields to represent that. So let's go ahead and add the fields for county. So that's a field that's in the spreadsheet, and so automatically now this tool knows where all the counties are in the United States, and so we can see that represented on the map here, which is pretty neat. But I think some of the other power then comes in the fact that you can add some additional dimensions to data. So now instead of just representing where all of these power stations are located geographically, let's also give some information so we can look at maybe a sense of scale. So now we can see where some of the big power generation stations are and where they're located geographically across the U.S. So this is, just kind of a neat example of some of the power that Microsoft is bringing down to make it really easy to use, and I think, maybe tell some compelling stories with the data that you have in Excel. So I think that's, probably one of the most, whiz-bang new features that's included in Office 2016. So Mark, what else is new in Excel 2016?
One of the most popular tools is the quick analysis tool. And Matt, if you could just highlight a subset of that data. And then you'll notice at the lower right-hand corner, there's that little menu that pops up, the quick analysis tool. And go ahead and click on that for us, and let's see what kind of interesting tools. And if you just hover over some of those, you're going to get some interesting options. And this is a really way to do very quick charts. And there's tons of options depending on how you want to manipulate the data. Somebody comes in and asks for a little bit of basic information. This is a great way to sort of pull out a subset of data. It's sort of in the same vein as a pivot table, but a little bit quicker and a little bit less fussy. So I think some of the moderate users like myself really like this. I'm terrible at creating graphs. I don't have to do it very often, and so when I do, it's nice just to be able to go in and manipulate the data easily. And yet, all of the very fancy features, the really robust tools are still in there. You can still find all of the really heavy-duty functions and ways to manipulate data. Now, one of my other favorite things that most people notice in the new versions of Office, again, started with 2013, but continues into 2016. Some of you will remember with Excel when you'd open multiple documents and keep it in the same window, and now that's no longer the case. So if Matt opens another document, rather than layering it in the same window, it opens as a separate window, which makes side-by-side comparisons much, much easier. Manipulating, copy-pasting data, it's such a simple tweak that was done to Microsoft's Word many years ago, and has now finally been carried over. Just in terms of ease of use, it's simple, but people have noticed and have been very happy about that. And other than that, aside from the usual new formulas and improved graphing tools, there's not that much that's new. Any features you can think of, Matt, that you want to share about?
No, I mean I think some of the new maps, the new mapping, I think is probably the most gee-whiz tool, and then I think there's just lots of refinements. When I went to the Microsoft Ignite conference, they were very proud of some of the data integration and manipulation tools, and the fact that you could integrate external data sets and use Excel to do a lot of sophisticated manipulation there. I don't get into that a whole lot, so that I think might be more interesting for for folks that are doing more large-scale data manipulation. But I know that was another feature that I think probably represents the most significant investment on Microsoft's standpoint in terms of making Excel a really powerful tool. I think one of the things, looping back to improving usability across all the applications, is actually back in Outlook. So we've been working on a couple of documents, and now, if you're like most people, now it's time to send some emails. So one of the things that I think is really handy as part of the new Office 2016 is now attach file. So if I click on Attach File, now this actually references the most recent documents that I've used. So I can see that there was that updated Word doc, there's my Power Station sample spreadsheet, and so right from here, you can easily attach files without kind of going and drilling down through complicated file systems or trying to find the right SharePoint library for those files. So I think in terms of usability, this has saved me, I don't know, minutes a day, not hours a day, but it's a significant savings of time, and I think of just headache. The other thing that you'll notice is in terms of attaching files is that you can attach files traditionally as an attachment. So this document is a 2 megabyte attachment. And then this document, another test, you see it has a little cloud overlay on the Word icon. And that represents the fact that this is actually not sending as an attachment. It's actually sending this as a link to my personal Dropbox. And then recipients can edit that information. So again, right from here, I can change the permissions. Maybe I don't want everybody to edit. I only want view permissions. So I can do that on the fly right through Outlook in the attachment. So I think that's a really powerful feature that's now in Office 2016 and probably the thing that I take advantage of the most as part of the upgrade.
I totally agree, and I think where folks are going to notice this more is instead of going into a program like OneDrive or Dropbox and sharing it there and sending them an email through that, you can just actually bring the document in automatically that you're working in. If it is not currently in OneDrive, I believe you can tell it to upload it automatically, and so it goes from a document on your local workstation up into the cloud now, and now you've shared a document that both people can work on, and you don't have to worry about getting them one of these gigantic files. You don't have to worry about file size limits in email, things like that, where this is, I think, just going to be much easier. And as they make this push towards more integrated collaboration tools, I think you're going to find that more people use these features, and I, for one, really like them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's that's great. All right, so if there's Johan, if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to go ahead and transition to that now, and if not, we do have a couple more slides just to talk through as we go on. So let's see.
We have lots of questions.
All right. Then yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and and get those questions answered.
Okay, great.
Fancy overview here.
So, kind of going back to Skype for Business, a couple questions around that. A lot of organizations use Skype, the original Skype
Mm-hmm.
Classic, already, and a lot of staff who use their personal Skype accounts for business have a lot of contacts in Skype. Is there any pathway basically for organizations to migrate, from what's essentially a prosumer, approach to using Skype for their business needs to actual Skype for Business?
Not as of yet. So currently they are two separate applications. So there's these Skype Consumer and then Skype for Business. So I think Microsoft is working towards some type of an integration or a migration approach where you can kind of federate or see both from one window, but they currently are two separate platforms.
Okay.
And again, so I think especially as right now, Skype for Business is mostly an internal chat video sharing tool. Phone kind of calling phone service is going to come. Again, it's really I think an internal communication tool now. I think that will likely evolve over the next couple of months.
Okay, and that sort of leads into the second question or set of questions around Skype for Business, which have to do with the ability to give out a phone number to call into a Skype meeting as you can with, GoToMeeting, or, WebEx meetings. I'm assuming that you can't do that the only way to connect into a Skype for Business meeting is to use the Skype for Business client.
No, I mean there are dial-in conferencing providers that you can add into, but again that takes a couple more steps. You have to get a separate contract, and so that's something you have to add in. I think my assumption is that as Microsoft introduces what would be called PSTN calling or packet switched telephone network, they will probably include the option for a dial-in provider so that people can dial in without using the Skype client. But anyways, so right now you can do it. It just requires a third-party vendor to actually provide that conference number.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. Switching gears a little bit, so click to run, the update, the installation method that is based on the Office 365 subscription. That includes patches, but it also includes program updates, and Microsoft will often release feature updates to an existing version of Office without doing a full kind of version update. Are those still going to be available for the more traditional MSI installations of Office 2016, especially for nonprofits that are purchasing their Office licenses from TechSoup?
Yeah, so it seems like Microsoft is still releasing kind of the traditional Office updates through that Windows or Microsoft Update channel. So again, kind of within version, those updates are kind of rolling out as they have before. What is different is that you're not going to be able to do an upgrade from Office 2013 to Office 2016 through a Microsoft update. So it's a separate MSI install as opposed to what Click to Run, where it's actually upgrading 2013 to 2016 kind of as part of an update process.
Got it. And is there, let's say that an organization has Click to Run and they're not quite ready to make the leap to 2016, and they don't want it to roll out automatically, is it hard to, turn that off or disable that?
No. So there's a couple ways to change it. So one is you can actually, in your Office 365 portal, you can kind of set your adoption preference. So we're early adopters, and so we have that turned on. You can set different preferences, and then there's also some XML configuration settings that you can change that would tell the system to not update. And again, if you're in a larger network, that's a fairly straightforward group policy change to make.
Great. Couple more questions here. Obviously, Office integrates with a lot of other software, especially in particular specialized software that different organizations use. Any early indications or concerns about integration issues? Any advice for organizations that are thinking about holding off on upgrading to 2016 because they want to make sure they don't break integration with something like Razor's Edge, which integrates with Outlook, or QuickBooks, which integrates with Excel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to have to do some testing yourself. My observation is that most applications or application vendors are fairly good in terms of keep updating their plugins to work with the most recent versions. That being said, our ticketing tool has an email connector or an email capture feature, and initially it just didn't work that well. It took a couple of weeks until they were the vendor was able to update that add-in. But that was one of those things where I kind of have a list of, okay, what are all the different things that touch out Office, so what do I need to test whenever I do an upgrade, or what are the things we have to test when we do an upgrade. So you have to do a little bit of due diligence and just understanding all the different applications that you have integrations for. But my sense is that in general the other third-party vendors are doing a fairly good job of updating their plugins to work with the most current versions of Office.
Great. I've got a couple more questions, but why don't you finish the slides, Matt, and then we can get back to the Q&A.
Oh, okay, great. Well, this is just kind of the overview, what's new. I think showing the transition from what was in Office 2010 to 2013 to 2016. So obviously a lot more buttons in 2016, mostly around kind of feature improvements and around collaboration. So I think there's a lot to like. I think there's very little reason to, not upgrade to Office 2016. The exception being if you have a lot of maybe custom integrations that aren't working. But if you're on Office 365, if you're in that subscription world, I think there's a lot to like in 2016. As Mark mentioned, kind of visually the toolbar, that's the biggest source of frustration is folks kind of the flat effect in 2013 just was really minimal, and I think that's been improved pretty dramatically in 2016. So yeah, I think there's a lot to like with 2016.
All the users that I've deployed it to in terms of testing have liked it. They like it better than 2010, and they really like it better than 2013, mostly because of the features I mentioned earlier. Most folks haven't had much issue adjusting to it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Great. So yeah, so we do have, I know we're right at 5 o'clock now, but are there any questions remaining, Johan?
Yes, we have a few more questions. Before we get to that, I did want to make two quick announcements. The first is that this marks the last webinar for 2015. We always take a break in December, but we will be back in January to start up the 2016 round of webinars. We do them every month, the third Thursday of the month, and we'll be doing 11 webinars in 2016 as well. So we will be sending out an email after the webinar today with a link to a survey, and we'd really like to encourage everyone to respond to that survey. It's great for us to get that feedback, and in particular, if there is a topic you would like to see us cover in 2016, please let us know, and we can try to work that into our schedule for 2016. But we'll be announcing the webinar series starting in January, so I think you should all be on our mailing list, and if not, you can go to our website and sign up for that. The second announcement I wanted to make is that tomorrow is the 30th anniversary of Windows. Windows 1.0 was released on November 20th, 1985. It required 2 floppy disks, 256 kilobytes of memory, and a graphics card. So
That's amazing.
It's amazing how far things have come in just 30 years. So it's important for me to get that out. So let's see, a couple more questions. So in that vein, what are your thoughts, Matt, in terms of sort of Microsoft closing the gap? I think one of the things we've really seen today is that Office 2016 is really kind of one side of the coin for Microsoft. The other side, of course, being Office 365. And a lot of the new features that make Office 2016 really compelling require Office 365. Although there's still kind of a distance, between those two products. What's your sense from Redmond on where that's headed? I mean, is it going to become completely integrated at some point down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the integration is certainly very tight, and I think it is telling that Microsoft is including OneDrive as part of your if you're just kind of buying subscription licensing of Office, of Office, you're getting OneDrive as part of that. So I certainly think that Microsoft has a very very strong kind of hold on that kind of business productivity and application suite, and so they know folks are using Office, and so I think in order to kind of keep them in the fold, they're including the storage as part of that. So yeah, so I think the bundling is something that's going to be continued, and you need some place to put your documents, and Microsoft really wants to make it easy for you to put your documents in their cloud.
Also related to that, is there going to be a new home version of Office for 2016?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I assume that there will be. So Office 2016 as a platform, has a number of different components, and kind of depending on which version or SKU that you have, you get kind of different features. So I assume that there would be a home version, that's probably not going to include Access or Publisher. That would just be Word, Excel, OneNote kind of thing.
Well, and what I think Microsoft is pushing for on the home front tends to be more of the subscription model for the home version of Office 365. What I've seen predominantly is when folks go out and try and buy a copy now, the push has definitely been towards that platform. And from what I can tell, that's going to include the same sort of incremental updates where you're purchasing software as a service rather than buying a set program that will age out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be the direction that they're heading in, moving much more towards this subscription model. And all right, well, I think that's it for the questions. Matt, Mark, thank you both so much. This was a great webinar, very informative. I learned quite a few things, and I hope our audience did today as well. And we thank everyone for joining us, and wish everyone a wonderful holiday season. And we look forward to connecting with you again in the new year. Take care.
Great.
Thanks.